guy that had a yellow face. Okay. This was a story about Jerry Johnson. Jerry Johnson was an ordinary guy that got up in the morning, washed his face, went to work, and then sometimes he liked to stroll in the park or do something with his friends after work and then would come back home. He lived alone and he was happy at the time being the way he was. One day, JJ, as we will call it from now on, decided that he wanted to paint something in his car. So he bought some yellow paint. And he painted that thing in his car and then brought back the rest of the paint home. And when he was coming back home, he really needed to go to the bathroom. So the first thing he did, when he had the paint can in his hand, was go straight to the bathroom, which he would normally not do. He would normally put whatever he had in his hand away, but this time he was in a hurry. So he put the paint can next to the sink and went to the bathroom. And as that was happening, somebody called him on his phone, and so he rushed out of the bathroom to pick up the phone. And he got distracted, and he forgot the paint can, the yellow paint can in the bathroom. Well, one of the things that JJ used to do was put a special cream in his face every morning. And so the next morning, he went to the bathroom and he was really tired. He had went out to party with his friends last night. He was a little bit sleepy, and he didn't realize that he put his hands inside of the paint can, and instead of applying lotion to his face, he painted all of his face yellow. And then he left the building, and suddenly everybody was looking at him. And he was like, "Ooh, I must be really good looking today, because everybody's looking at me." And then kids started pointing at him along the way, when he was going to work. And he was like, that's weird. Do I know this kid? And the parents would be like, "Shh, it's not polite to point." And while looking at JJ's face, like, that's a weird guy. And JJ would be like, do I know them? Anyways, la 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 la. And he went to work. And when he went to work, they said, "Hey, JJ, what's wrong with you?" And he said, "Why? Everything's fine. Your face, you look like the center of an egg. Did you fall on a chicken or something?" And JJ said, "What? Of course not." And so he went into the bathroom of the office to check his face, and he was all yellow. And that day, and he couldn't take the paint off. He was rubbing and rubbing, but he couldn't take the paint off. And that was the day in his job that he was going to be introduced to the super big boss of the whole company, that was a Japanese guy. And Japanese people usually have skin tones that are a little bit more towards the yellow than Europeans that are more pink, or let alone Africans that are more dark, or even Caribbean people that are more dark. So Japanese people have a very unique skin color. And he thought that he was going to be mocking him. And so he didn't know what to do, because if he called in sick, then he might lose his job. But if he went to see the big boss like that, then he could lose his job, because the boss would think he was mocking him with his yellow face. Oh no, what to do? I know. He went to a friend of him, a girl, and he said, "You know about makeup. You need to fix this now, or I'm going to lose my job." And the friend said, "Okay, I'm going to try it." And she applied a lot of makeup, but it was worse. She looked like a geisha. This was terrible. And alas, the time had come to see the big boss. He grabbed the big magazine and put it in front of his face. He was called into his office. He went into the office with all the makeup that made him look like a geisha. And he said, "Oh, well..."
What is a geisha?
It's a traditional Japanese woman that's being raised and educated to serve a man at the highest level. So they're like the perfect woman for the Japanese culture from way back then. And they used to paint their faces completely white with red lipstick and some, I think, eyeliner or something like that. So they used to traditionally dress and paint their faces like that with a lot of white makeup and that's how they're known. Anyways, back to the story. And so he put a magazine in front of his face. JJ, yes, JJ was terrified that his boss would see the mockery of his face. And he said, "Well, sir, it's great to meet you." And he extended his hand, but he couldn't see anything, so he slapped somebody in the ass. And the boss turned around because the boss was not near him. That was one of his security guards that he slapped in the ass. And the security guard was pointing at JJ with a gun because he slapped him in the ass. But JJ had a magazine on his face, so he couldn't see. And so the boss started to notice this and didn't understand what was going on. He thought, is this a weird guy or what? And so the boss said, you know, you could die at any moment, right? Because of the gun that was pointed at JJ's head from the security guard. But JJ didn't know about the gun because he couldn't see past his magazine. And so he said, I don't fear death, but let me congratulate you on your position and say that it's been nice to meet you and goodbye, say JJ. And the boss started laughing and laughing. Nobody has ever talked to me like this. Come here, sit down. Let me give you some whiskey, said the boss. And the guard put his gun down. But JJ wasn't moving the newspaper from his face. When suddenly the boss said, look, if you're meeting with me, we're going to meet face to face. So put down the ad, son. So JJ had to do it. He put down the ad and he thought, for sure now he's going to think I'm mocking him. He's going to fire me. And the boss saw him and started laughing and laughing and laughing his ass off. And he couldn't believe it and said, hey, look at this guy. I've never been made fun like this. This is so funny. And so JJ started laughing so much too that he started crying and the makeup started wearing off. Why? What's that under you? And so he made him washed his makeup up with a towel and he was yellow. So he was laughing even more about that because if you're hilarious, said the boss. And so JJ was like, oh yeah, that's me, yay. And so JJ did not lose his job at that time. And in fact, he became friends with the boss of all the bosses of the company. So he actually did great in his work and had a lot of perks because of that. But also he learned a big lesson that judging somebody by how they looks, it's kind of ridiculous. At best you can laugh at it, you can laugh at the funny things about it, but never think that those things are bad, because then you're calling into the future your fears. The end.